Kobe, like a lot of these guys don't know how to grab hold of it. And it looks like starting to figure out how to do that. And that's a testament to him. It's a testament to like Gibson and Derrick Rose and a few of the veterans that are working with him on that. And I think it's a testament to chemistry. He gets along really well with Covington and Saric. He did not get along well with Butler, and that helps and makes things easier too.
The interesting thing when we talk about young players learning how to be leaders, sometimes a young player wins, and so we ascribe leadership qualities to him, whether he earned it or not. It's like, if you read about what went on in Bulls practices when Jordan was young, he was a jerk.
Yeah.
But he won enough that you got to call that leadership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the elite of the elite, like Jordan or Kobe or LeBron, or they can get away with a few things that a player of even just a little lesser caliber can't. Like, if you're going to go about it that way, you better be unimpeachable from a playing perspective, and that's what Michael Jordan was. Towns is still working through some of his faults and trying to smooth out the wrinkles in his game, and so he can't afford, and he doesn't have the personality to be that way either, to be that combative, confronting type of a jerk type of a leader. Like I was talking to Kevin Garnett way earlier in the season, and one thing he told me was that Towns is trying to be everyone's friend. And he's really image conscious. He's really kind of trying to find his way that way and be the popular kid. And that doesn't always ring true to teammates who want a guy who is going to hold them accountable and hold himself accountable. So it's a process that he's navigating. And what I've known about Karl Anthony Towns since he came here is that his intentions are pure. Like, he wants to be the man. And he's been trying and wrestling with figuring that part of it out. And I think now we're kind of starting to see some of the glimmer at the end of the tunnel there about being able to kind of come through on that end of it.
If you hear this show on Monday, you can go to sodastick.com and use the code STRAIGhtCash, one word, to get 15% off when spending $50 or more on select items. That's new releases, all hoodies, and more. Also, you can always use the promo code YouBetcha, one word, YouBetcha, to get free shipping on any size order. So go to sodastick.com, check out their stuff. They have a lot of new stuff and special runs out. That'll be great gifts for the holidays. Skull Trucker hat, it's purple on purple. The Skull Palm Beanie, the Skull Crewneck sweatshirt, the Valhalla Trucker hat, the Duck Trucker hat, North Star t-shirt, North Star hoodie, Minnesota Hockey Crewneck sweatshirt. You can find all that stuff at sodastick.com. It's SOTA stick.com. And the cool thing about their company is, I always tell you, is they do special runs. They do they react to the news of the day. They put out stuff quickly. It's a really cool local company that you should be supporting, and I'm glad they're supporting us. Sodastick.com. So you look at the NBA standings, and we know how bad the Wolves' start was. We know how damaging that could have been. But here they are, and even though they're only have a better record than one team, Phoenix, in the entire conference right now, they're only one game out of 8th place. Yeah. And the top 8 does not look as imposing as we might have thought it might. Yeah,
it's I think so far in this NBA season, the defining characteristic to this point, and it's so early, but to this point has been there's been more parity in this league than we're used to seeing, right? I mean, though the NBA is always criticized for being top heavy, and it's always been that way, and it may even end up being that way. But right now, if you're going to go through a rough patch, it's early is better right now, just because Golden State's going through a rough patch. Houston, the Lakers were rough early, but now have kind of stabilized a little bit, even though they lost to Orlando on Sunday night. You have teams that are not separating themselves from each other, and so you can feel like you're scuffling and you're trying to find your identity and you're trying to recalibrate around this new roster, but you're not totally buried yet, and that's a very good thing. I'm assuming when Steph Curry gets back, the Warriors are going to take off, but you don't know. Like they've had a weird vibe all season, and you look at Houston, just hasn't really been able to put it together yet, and you expect them to take off here soon, but they're not playing all that well. San Antonio is not the Spurs of old. They're going back and forth, and so the good part of it is that you're always going to be in it, but the challenging part of it is that so many teams are sort of in the mix that it makes it tough to make up ground.
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas is not terrible this year. If Phoenix has even beaten a few teams, Utah, they're not anywhere near what anybody thought they were going to be. So it's just so muddled right now, and it is, I think, because of that parity. There's not one or two teams that are just streaking away from the pack and beating the doors off of everybody like there usually is. So as bad as it has been for the Wolves, and as kind of frustrating as it was for that first 13 to go 4-9, they're 5-2 since, and they're right in the thick of it. They play a winnable game against Cleveland, then they come home for another 4 straight games. I mean, Boston they have on Saturday, they're playing terribly right now. So there's a lot of opportunity here if this team can coalesce a little bit more and start putting something together.
Absolutely. What are you more surprised by? Clippers being in first place, or Utah being 9-11 and tied for next to last?
Yeah, boy, I probably have to say Clippers in first. This is a team that entered the season, and they had some conversations with the Wolves about Jimmy Butler, but they were very hesitant to give up assets for him, and they also believed, from what I understood, they believed that they were still a year away from really being in a whole lot of playoff contention. They have a draft pick protection that's involved going into next year, where if they don't make the playoffs, it's actually better for them from a draft pick wise. And so, you just didn't see this kind of group of parts really coming together to be better than the whole. I mean, they have a bunch of guys that are really good players, like, Tobias Harris and Gallinari and Patrick Beverly, and their rookie Shai Gilgeous-Alexander really looks good. But it's not a team that you look at and say, oh my gosh, they're overwhelming us with talent. I mean, so what they do for Doc Rivers is just play really hard, and they play together, and it's really come on, and they have a lot of confidence right now. I think Memphis is the same way. They get Conley and Gasol back, and they don't have a ton of overwhelming talent outside of that. Jaren Jackson's a really good young rookie, but they're just playing together and playing really hard. And maybe that isn't conducive to playoff success necessarily, where you need stars to really be stars. But for right now, it instills a little bit of hope in them, and it puts a kind of a wind at their backs that's going to help them as the season gets longer and longer.
Twitter questions. Eric Berg and Katie Davidson both asked about Wiggins. Katie asked, do you think we'd see added effort in Wiggins if he came off the bench?
Well, that's Britt brings that up as a possibility in his story, and I start to think about, you've tried a lot of other things. What is left to try? And maybe that would be some sort of motivating factor for him if you did bring him off the bench. Maybe that would be something that would even put him more into a shell. I don't know. Maybe just say, man, screw this. I'm not going to do it. But the thought of a potentially offensively dynamic player like that coming in with the second unit, I mean, all of a sudden you have Derrick Rose and Andrew Wiggins together, and with whoever else you want to put in there, Gorgie and Saric. I mean, that's a pretty interesting group to put together. I would like to see Okogie get some minutes that way, and to kind of bite into that playing time. If you're not getting the consistent energy effort from Wiggins, put in someone who does bring that on a every single play basis, maybe as a way to send a message to Andrew, like, hey, look, man, Like, this is what we need. If you want these 35 minutes a night, this is how you have to play. And, I think that especially early in the season, that can be a time for message sending, for trying to get through to guys, like with something like that. Now, the moving him to the bench would be a very drastic move and would get a lot of attention. So maybe Tibbs doesn't want to do that and doesn't want to bring that on his guy right now. But at the very minimum, just really cutting back those minutes and giving them to other people that work harder for them. He's already starting to do that, and that at least has to continue until you see some signs of Wiggs snapping out of it.
From 03, looks like, I'm not sure what his Twitter handle is, Kilio Jalen, I guess. Do you think the way Cat is being used offensively is damaging his potential to be one of the best bigs in the NBA?
Well, I mean, look, he had 35 and 22 last game. But I think overall, in the Tom Thibodeau era, he has been utilized differently than other coaches would utilize him, I think. I keep picturing if Rick Adelman was coaching this team and what he did with Kevin Love, I think you could do that plus with Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, Towns isn't quite the accomplished passer that Love is or was when he was here, but I think emboldened in a role like that, he could be. And so I am surprised that the offense hasn't run through him more consistently over the years. But now that Jimmy Butler is gone, he really, Tibbs doesn't have another choice. I mean, Derrick Rose is getting a lot of the usage rate, and that's deserved right now because he's playing really well. But, I mean, Towns has to be the focal point, and he is starting to be that guy. Now, what you want to see keep going forward is in close games, fourth quarters, later in games, you want to see him involved in the flow and getting touches and getting opportunities to bend the defense that just we weren't seeing regularly with him while Jimmy Butler was here. But I do think I think they can do more with him, and I think they are going to be doing more with him going forward now because they just need him so badly.
From Jerome Jordan, when do you think Tibbs extends his bench? I ask because I would like to see Wiggins out there without Rose. Per NBA lineup since the Jimmy trade, Wiggins has only played 20 minutes without Rose. I think Wiggins should have a group where he's the man for a few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting theory because does he just need to be fully empowered that way? Possibly, but then the problem is that if you're looking to do that, where are you finding those minutes? Because if you want to move, let's just say, total wild speculation, let's just say that eventually you trade Jeff Teague and Rose moves into the starting lineup. Then maybe you have more opportunities to separate Rose and Wiggins. You put Wiggins on the bench early in the first quarter. You bring him back with that second unit. He's sort of the main guy with that unit while Rose is resting. But right now, the way it's set up, and which is the right way, I think, is that Rose is the number one option on that second unit, and he's the backup point guard, and that helps keep his minutes down a little bit as well. And so, if Rose is going to be that way, then Wiggins is with the starting lineup, and you want the ball going through Towns more than you do Wiggins at this point. And so where's the opportunity for Wiggins to be the guy? And has he really done enough to deserve that kind of a faith yet? I'm not sure that he has. What I would wonder about is okay, let's say that Towns, knock on wood, let's say that he was hurt or out for some reason. How does Wiggins respond in that sort of a situation where he's the clear-cut number one option that way? But it just, given their rotation right now, it's hard to separate Rose and Wiggins to that degree and also still empower Wiggins to the degree that you would want to with a plan like that. I still think that, with the starting unit, I want Towns to be the man right now because he's earned that. And with the second unit, I want Rose to be the man right there because he's just playing at such a level that you can rely on him. With Wiggins,